517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control.
This is the Star Wars Squadrons podcast. Thank you for joining me. This week, we're having on someone's been playing the game, I believe, since the beginning of the year. I met you more recently. You have brought something to Squadrons that is in desperate need, and that is the Cadet Cup, which is a tournament for competitive players. Wookie, thank you for being on the podcast today.
Hello, I'm glad to be here.
And yeah, that's something I've never really talked to you about because we just kind of met, once Tangerine formed and everything. When did you start playing Squadrons?
Since launch.
Since launch, so you have played since launch. Were you were loving the Interceptor? You're an Interceptor main at heart, I know. Still, was that your ship at the beginning?
No, at the beginning I was gonna be a fighter, so flex role basically. Focused a bit more on OBJ. Then I think 2 or 3 weeks into playing, I thought, you know what? I'm actually pretty good in an Interceptor. Let's just use that. So I've been an Interceptor pilot ever since.
I was the other way, right? When I started, I wanted to, I was like, I want to go kills. So I tried to get into the Interceptor, and it did not work for me. So I think I was in the Bomber for a long time. Did you play Star Wars games beforehand, or flight games? Where was your background gaming-wise before Squadrons?
Star Wars games, definitely. The first shooter I ever played was EA's Star Wars Battlefront 1. So that, I love the Starfire Assault mode in that. And then when the VR came out, and that was amazing. I picked up the PSVR for that. And then I thought, yeah, that's just Star Wars and flight sims. This is my thing.
So yeah, the flight sim. So you're on PS with controller and VR, which is like, there's a portion of the competitive community who uses VR, but I mean, it's a smaller, there's more HOTAS and there's more other variations than there is VR. How do you feel about the VR when you play VR versus not VR? What would you say the difference is? How much have you? I don't think you've done much non VR, but what do you notice going back and forth?
When I play not in VR, the main thing I notice is my awareness of what's going on is just straight down the drain. I don't really know who to look at, etc., in terms of PK targets. When I'm in VR, I feel like I know 360 around me what's going on, who's where, etc. But yeah, for me, it's really hard to track targets on not VR.
I get it, because it is like the way that you do. I mean, just you talking about making you look around with your eyes to see what's going on around you versus like you have to use the targeting system. You can really only see like one ship at a time. You're like, okay, it's facing me there. It's off over there because I know from like the cursor, right? Like it's completely different that way versus doing a quick look around. And I think too, what I've noticed is the players who do use VR tend to be on the more player kill side. Do you think the VR helps for that reason because of the awareness, or what are your thoughts anywhere there?
Definitely. The immersion and awareness really helps for PK. I think your aim is also better in VR. I'm not sure what it is, but almost every player I know in VR has better aim than without.
And it might have to do too with the immersion there too, I guess, as well, just like being that locked into it. And and that, I guess too and that might lead because you have the better aim and you feel more comfortable with the awareness on that ship. That's what maybe leads people to be more player killers as well, because that seems to be the tendency. Sort of a lot of VR players do end up being PK heavy, so that's interesting and cool to get your background. I know as well, Dynasty as well in the chat said, "Yo, Wookie," giving you a shout out, and Dynasty.
Hey, Dynasty.
Yeah, from IG as well. So you were, you played with IG a lot earlier in the year, and sort of, had IG in your name. Like, well, how did you get into Imperial Guard? What was it like? Who you were playing with earlier on in Squadrons?
Quite early on, I think I was with TRA at the beginning, sort of playing with like Dirty Harry and that kind of group. Only for a month or so, and then I had a big thing with my parents, and I couldn't play the game for about 3 months. I didn't have my PlayStation, Then when I got back into the game, I think this was December, so the Defender and the B-Wing had been out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it and was like, oh my god, new ships. They're actually putting content in this game. So yeah, managed to get my PlayStation back for that. And then I sort of came back, jumped in a bunch of different clans and discords, and sort of Imperial Navy just kind of stuck. So I've been there basically ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
IG
Mhm.
is a bit of a rocky road. I don't really want to play. Never wanted to play fleet battles because the PK role was never that useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, it certainly is now.
definitely not since you've. I mean, since you've came back like in December, I think like PK has just kind of been like down and down since then, kind of because evasion stuff has been on the rise.
So I never signed up to IG fleet battles. I did do IG dogfights.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the pre-season for SPL. Yeah, so that's why I'm not in IG.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a PK main.
Yeah, and then sort of when Tangerine kind of needed someone, you kind of came over there and stepped up, and yeah, you playing with them a lot. And that's the thing. More and more, I think like there is a role for PK in this game. Like as it's just, I think this is kind of coming from Phoenix. Is like he was saying this the other day that the PK is just kind of behind the evasion. So evasion is just ahead, but like evasion kind of has a limit, whereas like I feel like PK can kind of catch up to that. And I feel like I'm looking at like SCL, you're seeing a lot more kills in most games than you were seeing previously. So I do think as people get better as evasion, people will also get better at PvP, and they're like I'm saying, there's a ceiling. They'll kind of meet up somewhere. There's my theory anyway, long term.
I think the biggest problem with PK is the ships themselves. The A-Wing and the Interceptor are pretty useless at capship. So
I mean, I know the A-Wing for sure. Yeah, the Interceptor actually has pretty crazy DPS with the overcharged standard lasers, but you're right, for the A-Wing, it's just only popping weak points, basically. And then so they had to give it... They just never gave it the love it needed to give it the balance and the rest for with where the game is. It's kind of, they're just kind of lacking. So I just don't see I personally don't see the place for the A-Wing as much. Very few and far between can it really work for me. I think I know you can make more of a case for the Interceptor. You can make more of a case for the Interceptor for sure. I mean, the A-Wing is. I mean, it's so hard. Like where I think Gonk, when I was talking to him earlier today, he mentioned because the problem is that it dies not even because someone targets it. Like if it just flies too close to a Nebulon, an objective player is doing a Goliath on it, then they get hit by it and just die. That's why it sucks. Or they just happen to be in the way. It's just like, oh, Bomber's rotary just hits it. It's like, oh, they're there. I'll shoot it, and they can get it in a second. So it's so that's the problem with it. It needed just that little. It needed like slightly more shields, I guess, to stop those two kind of things from happening, or regen of the shields. What do you think?
The main thing is charge rate in the A-Wing.
Yeah.
Just the rate at which stuff charges is so slow, including the shields and the boost. The lasers are a bit better, but yeah. And the rate it holds stuff as well. The boost will just disappear if you put your energy anywhere else.
And when you're talking about these things too, so a lot of people who, when they come to the game, the new players, what they may want is to fly the ships, not like... Because players were more experienced, it's like, well, we need to do this to win, sort of a thing, right? Like, not, oh, I just realized it's something messy up on the screen here. I'm going to just adjust that 1 second. It's not to them about necessarily winning. They want to use the ships that they can to play rather than using the winning ship. So I guess it's kind of a balance there for new players, and they don't really understand that.
Yeah.
So I think it's
I think the big thing with the A-Wing is that you see it used a lot more with lower levels. I think simply because it is pretty easy to get kills with the A-Wing.
The lasers are strong, right? Like they are like you can do it. It's just it's the survivability.
It's the survivability and the lack of objective. So you don't really see it in high level teams because train someone in an X-Wing, they can PK just as well as an A-Wing, and then do so much more.
Yeah, so it's just that
Yeah.
line. And when I'm talking about all this too, so how to, new players don't really know this, they learn it. So you may have seen, new players not understanding this. Does this what led you to then start the Cadet Cup, which is basically focused on adding, competitive gameplay for, not necessarily the highest level comp players, like the room, because this is a competitive game, there should be room for all levels. So how did it come about?
It was quite a few different factors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things was seeing stuff like Cal Cup, and Operation Ace, where the little guys just get stomped, completely and utterly stomped. Like, these guys aren't bad players; they're just not the top people. And then you just see these teams just disperse and disband because they hop into Cal Cup, come up against Randalorians and IG, and just get completely destroyed. It's a big morale killer. And then also part of it is looking at Squadrons itself, like the actual game. There isn't many systems in the actual game that sort of promote keep playing the game. I think is one of the biggest problems with the game.
I think you're right.
Repetitive.
It's super hard for people to like meet up to in game. Like you can't message someone in game. So so it makes harder. So what? Cadet Cup started as a 3v3 tournament and Discord for people to meet up. And so how did you get word out there? How has it grown? Why don't you tell us about how it started there?
I sort of became a representative for Imperial Navy. Had this idea back in January, February of starting up Cadet Cup. It didn't have a name then. It was sort of a thing with Minor to just kind of this would be a thing to be cool with the community. So I started getting into every single Discord I could find. Every single Squadrons Discord that had a few players in, and just making myself known, just saying, "Hi, I'm from Imperial Navy. We're considering starting up a thing." And then eventually, when we did have enough to actually present to people and show them, I messaged every single leader of all the servers I was in. I think I'm in about 40 Squadron servers. That's how we got the word out.
And also, I feel like there's probably a few Reddit posts too about it, I think, as well.
Yeah, Rediac did a couple of Reddit posts, as did SQ. Yeah, Reddit it's a weird thing.
It is a weird thing, but there's a huge group of the player base who is there like fairly regularly, so it is a good way to get out. I think there's a lot of people. So okay, this is kind of like why I think the Cadet Cup is a good thing to marshal people, because like you were saying with the Cal Cup, the little guys don't really have a shot, and like that's why you kind of are seeing it go from like 40 some odd teams in the first one down to almost like 20 to 30 at other times. Like it's really dropping off because teams are like, I don't have a chance. Like why am I going to invest all this time or whatever? Which may go a long way actually with Cal Cup reducing the games. Actually having less time might actually appeal to people playing it a little bit more for that reason. We'll see, but I think having another level down, something like this, where people will feel like they can compete in is just so huge. And then having a place for people to network, I think maybe some of these people who are on Reddit or the Facebook or just playing the game wouldn't have wanted to join into these Discords, but maybe it's more appealing to them now because they know that it's like a little thing at their skill level where they'll be able to play. Is that kind of what you're trying to set up? Or
yeah, that as well. We did set up a mercenary system as well. So on the sign-ups, you could sign up as a solo mercenary or a mercenary duo, and then I'd put mercenary together to make teams. I think in the first one we had 6 mercenary teams that had only met a week before the games. And one of them, I think, placed 3rd.
Yeah. Wow.
That's pretty cool to see.
So from when you kind of started it and got it going till the first event, how long was the run up there?
2.5 months.
Oh, that's
since it was in my head.
Okay. But I mean, like, because I feel like there was like almost 18 or 20 some odd teams in the first one, right? So how long? It
was 30.
30 teams, right? Like that's, I mean, that's getting, and they were 3v3 teams, but through threes, but still, like that's getting, a huge amount of people out. It just shows that the appeal is definitely there. And it was like, from when the server kind of like launched to that was only a few weeks, I think, right before the event. Maybe I'm mistaken there. You can correct me.
It was about a month before the event, yeah.
I think that's pretty incredible that you were able to get it going and that it's done so well.
Yeah, I was expecting like 8 or 9 teams. That'd be pretty cool. But we ended up with 34 signed up, 4 of which dropped before the actual event. But yeah, that was it was pretty insane to see the first day just constantly people joining. I think we almost had 100 members within 24 hours of releasing.
That's amazing. So good to hear that, because it just shows, like, I kind of spoke to it, like, this is a competitive game, and just because you're not like the top 20 teams or whatever doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to maybe have something to be competitive in. So I really think it kind of opens that up, and I think it kind of helps keep interest in this game just the same way, right? Like having a different tier.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things I love about it is that you can look through the roster of teams, know like 1 or 2 pilots maybe, and just have no idea, even looking through their stats and stuff, have no idea who's going to come out on top.
Oh,
it would be hard to even place like a top 5. It's just
now the other thing
I have no clue.
So you do kind of keep an eye on the people joining, though, to make sure the skill levels are balanced in some way, right? Like for the first tournament, how did you do that in the first tournament, or how was that approached there? I guess we'll talk about that one, and then we'll talk about it since afterwards.
Okay, the first tournament we set up a sort of rule list, sort of requirement list, that you had to meet everything. It was stuff like not being top 16 in Cal Cup, not participating in SCL, being a Division 1 team in SPL, being Legend or higher, and then having over a certain win rate. And then from there, you sign up, and then we do our checks. Our checks are, we get them all into a lobby, and we look through all of their stats, and we have 6 or 7 certain stats we're looking at, and we have a staff guide that says certain ratings. So if, say, for example, this is not the actual number, but I'm going to give it an example. If you have a KD in dogfight over 3, you'll get a flag. And then if a whole team gets 3 or more flags, we bring it to staff chat and have a chat and see why they've got their flags and whether one of them needs to be removed or whether the entire team needs to be removed.
I mean, a lot of work for you, but obviously it created a great environment for that tournament because it was very, very balanced. Like all of the games, like clearly there was newer players, some people who didn't like know exactly what to do, but you know what, there was the learning curve there, and it was like a fair play for people who were in those situations. And then there was a higher end people who had a better grasp, but I don't think the separation from the low end to the high end was that far, really, that it was fun for everyone involved for that reason,
that was the main thing. I think it's in the first paragraph of like the rules and reference guide that says this is meant to be fair. We want all the games to be as close as possible. If we think you're too good, then we're just going to remove you, because it's all about fair play and sort of building the community rather than trying to win.
And we should give a shout out to the teams that did place the highest actually too in that first one, if you can remember them off the top of your head.
ENE Death Squadron won the thing without losing a single match.
Nice, good for them.
Very heavy OBJ. I don't think they had a PK at all. They were just Orps, and that won it quite well for them.
I was going to ask.
Neely's Crucible came second. They had a strong PK. Very strong PK. And quite well OBJ. They finished third in the group stage, which meant they started in the elimination bracket. And they won every game in the elimination bracket and made it to the final.
Nice.
But unfortunately, couldn't win in the final. Wanted that comeback, but
Dynasty said that he was hosted the TNE's matches, and damn, it was raining torps. Beautiful. I'm curious about the 3v3 format. What did you notice the difference in the 3v3 format versus the 5?
The one absolute main reason that it is 3v3 is we wanted it to be like me and a couple of my buddies sign up to do this. Finding 4 other people to play a game with, if you're not in a competitive, like top competitive team, can be really difficult
Yes.
to find the people that can dedicate the time and participate in the tournament. We did go through, I'd say, 2-3 weeks of different modifiers to try and make the 3v3 format work and not have the games dragged out for too long. That took a bit of time. I think we've found a right balance with modifiers to make it work.
Well, did you talk about them, or do you like to keep those secret at all? If you...
I know those modifiers are open. It's 0.8 hull on the flagships and the cruisers, and then the Raider has 0.6 hull. Yeah, that's it. And the shields are at full.
Yeah, and just to expedite slowly or slightly on the objective, rather.
Yeah, just make that objective quicker. Because there's only 3 players out there. We also kind of wanted to emphasize the Raider burn as being a good thing.
Makes sense. Yeah, because you're trying to teach.
The hull on that.
It's also a big part of it too, is so that people learn the game too and are playing competitively correctly too, which is kind of helping develop like the whole, player base. Really, I mean, the whole player base is really like coming along. Like if you compare like the average player now versus like a few months ago, it's just they're so much better than they were. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just so many more tools available and resources for people to learn. So I think it's doing that. Okay, so since the first one now, what's been the story with the Cadet Cup since then? What was the plan afterwards, and how's that gone?
The plan after the first one was nothing. The plan was this would be a one-off. We get 8 or 9 teams in, see how it would go. Amazing. The amount of people that DM'd me and staff members saying this was an incredible event, thank you so much for putting this together, etc. Just motivated me to make a second one.
Nice.
I think I had it released a week after the first one with a date. Everything from the first one basically carried over to the second one. There was only a few minor things that sort of changed, but everything from the first one worked pretty well. The biggest change is that in the elimination rounds, instead of, if it's a tie, going to deaths, instead of that, we're going to have a tiebreaker, which would be a 1v1 dogfight, first to 3 kills.
That's pretty fun, actually. I like that. I thought that in the Twin Suns they had the damage race, which I think frustrated people.
So complicated.
I think I would almost prefer a 1v1 almost determining than the PvP race in a certain way. Like I don't know, like the PvP race is cool to a certain degree. I just didn't like that it decided the ranking so much. That's all. I mean, it's so difficult to make a tournament, so I'm not trying to criticize them actually that much on it. It was just frustrating at that moment because it was so tight. You were like, oh, this is really good. Anyway, but yeah, it doesn't matter. No one's ever going to be happy with anything. So since then, too, you've also sort of, I think, changed the requirements like you talked about earlier, how you were flagging people going through. Yeah, how has it gone through now?
So we've made the application requirements a little bit looser. So there's no rank requirement because we realize you can just grind and stack with people. You can also play an SCL Season 1. Season 2 players are banned. And then we have a list of like top teams. But other than that, basically you can sign up. The in-house checks, the checks we do for the teams have got a little bit stricter. Just so we can get a few more flags and sort of separate the teams out a little bit more.
So the event then is coming up right now. What is it, June 4th? So it's coming up tomorrow, right? June 5th and 6th. We've got the events happening.
It's tomorrow.
How is it looking for teams and everything?
We have 28 signed up.
Nice.
And only about 8 of which have done checks, which is much different to last time. Last time we had almost all the checks done by now. So I don't know what's going on.
So a lot of work to do. Is it the same format with 3v3 as well?
Yep, 3v3 max roster size is 5, so you can have 2 subs. Very
cool. In a 2-day event the same way?
Yep, 2-day event. The the second day was only if we had enough people,
Mhm.
but we definitely do. We're almost matched the first Cadet Cup in teams.
Amazing.
So it's still a question of whether we do 5 groups or 6. But we're
Yes.
still working that out.
Very cool. The other thing I guess that I would think about is they would be going to be cast as well. Both day 1 and day 2 are cast by a bunch of different people. I remember last time there was a bunch of different streams, and same thing this time.
Yeah, this time we we know what we're doing a little bit more. We have a bunch of different streams. Boy Boy is going to be the mainstream.
Nice.
He's going to be like the main promoted one. This time as well, I've asked all our staff and casters to upload to the Cadet Cup YouTube directly from their stream. And then we're gonna, I might, if I have time, edit stuff down and release videos of every single matchup.
I can help you with that for sure.
That would be very
I can
nice,
help you just
I have no
probably
idea
if you
how to do
can.
that.
Yeah, I can help you. If you can help me get the files easily somewhere, then I'll help you process them into the thing. You give me big files, I can make them into smaller ones easily for you.
I like that.
Yeah, I will help you with that for sure. Also, I'm just really excited for this event because I think it's another thing that's going to bring the community together. You're not going to see this actually, but you know, I mean, you play with me enough that you hear me talk about the Steam charts all the time. So I've been kind of keeping an eye on them lately, and I'm showing them on stream. And they honestly, like, when was the last Cadet Cup?
I want to say the 1st or 2nd of May.
Yeah, so it was after the Twin Suns or before? It was before the Twin Suns, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, so we'll say May. So it's been like, I'm just showing it. It's like somewhere here in May, where if we look like back a month, and you can just see the growth of the game and how excited it was, and then it's slowly been building up again. And I think because there's these events coming up, people are playing again. You can see leading up to this last weekend, and people were just really excited, and it was like at levels we haven't seen for a bit. Like the game is growing again. Like I play at the lowest time, and you're getting in. Like even today, I mean it's fresh season, but all before the season refresh, games were like popping on. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is going on? I'm looking at the numbers, like it is back. People are playing. I feel like things like this actually are adding excitement. Oh, another thing here too, RDT2, he mentioned, did you see the PvE time trial race? This is another thing that's happening right now.
Oh, yeah, the treaties.
I think that's something that's really great for the community. No, I was kind of complaining. I think you mentioned it because I was complaining about it in the Twin Suns as a decider, but that's just because it was a decider there. I love it as like a thing. Doing those PvE, I've been doing tons of those lately. Like we do a lot of training that way. I love the PvE race. It's something different. It's the same with dogfighting. Like, I love fleet battles, but I love that there is different formats. I love that the 3v3 format. Like, I think doing tournaments with these different formats is really cool because you can really split the player base if you had these different modes. Like we have such a small player base, you can't really have a 3v3 search or anything like that. You really need to just have these limited searches. But for events and these different things, you know, like running these custom, like very cool. I feel like this kind of stuff's the future of Squadrons. I really want to get doing a like race night kind of thing again, like like Mediocre was doing a bit ago, and he kind of didn't have to follow up with them, but he did one video where it just seemed so fun. I'd really like to do that. Like the SLS has a really easy track to do around, you can figure out, and we might make it like so that there's like kind of like snipers or something. So if you're doing, so it'll be probably by class, so it'll be like an interceptors race, and then you could have like the Y-wings like will be around it and the shooting golos at you or whatever you have to be careful with or something, you know what I mean? Like, and you get no chaff, or you could do some sort of modifier too. So just that kind of stuff that would make it really interesting, I think.
Definitely. There's a lot of things we can do with this game.
So I think it's really exciting too that you're bringing the Cadet Cup to all the new people, and all the people are kind of getting back into the game and playing again. I'm really excited for this weekend. So if there's anyone listening, they could, and they are thinking about joining, they still have the opportunity to get in there, give you a bunch of more work, and do some more checks, right?
They don't.
Oh, they don't.
The sign-up's closed on Wednesday.
They do not have a chance. Good. That's more work for you.
The PS thing was, it's a godsend, but It was really bad timing
Because
because the sign-ups closed as PS Plus came out.
Oh, right then. That's
So
pretty funny, yeah.
if we get PS Plus players that want to play in Cadet Cup, they're gonna have to wait for the third one,
And that's
which is in the works.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome, though. Yeah,
We have a third one and a fourth in the
It's
works.
so important, I feel like, doing these things. It's the most important thing for, I think, growing the player base, keeping people interested, and improving the player base, because I feel like people are just, these are the kind of things that really make people get better and make people like, because it's one thing for Fencar to make a video, it's another thing for people to like talk about it and see it too, and then be like, oh okay, so now I get it, kind of. It like makes it puts it in perspective a little bit more for them, I think, too. And they might just, we kind of talked about this earlier, but like I've said, like the in-game messaging and stuff doesn't really provide a way for people to meet each other, so I think these kind of events being posted, like I'm saying, in Reddit, Facebook, it kind of gets to the other people who wouldn't necessarily see it, and it might lead them to the Discord, and then it might lead them to the other Discords, the greater community, learning more, and I honestly think that's very important in the game. Like, I feel like that's the fact that a bunch of people aren't on Discord who play this game, and the more hardcore, the better player base is on Discord, it just separates, like, it creates that skill gap. So there's like, you see it when you start to play with people who are on Xbox only, and you just see them get way better, or whatever, console only, and they switch over and start to mix it up. It just happens really fast. So I think a lot of people have converted to Discord too. So hopefully we can keep doing that. And I think the things like this are going to really go a long way. So I thank you, Wookie, for doing everything you're doing to make this happen.
You're welcome. It is a lot of time.
Well, I hope you know that the community, it's not just me, the community appreciates it. Everyone who's taking part in this tournament appreciates it. And like I'm saying, like, you're going to put, just like Poi Boy streaming, it's just going to be huge for the community, getting more people watching Squadrons, showcasing Squadrons in a great way. Really positive. Really positive.
Trying to get all those new people watching the game. Hopefully Poi Boy can get a big viewing.
Yeah, for sure. If you were listening, check out the streams over the weekend. Wookie, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
I do have one more thing.
Oh, please, anything else? Yeah, before we wrap up here, please, anything else you want to talk about?
We have the Cadet Cup League, which is sign-ups close next week, which is the 3v3 format in a league, so have one game a week, and it is open to everybody. So Orange want to sign up, they can sign up. Tangerine want to sign up. Splinter, Randos, anybody. You can sign up. It's kind of the thing. We're gonna split it into divisions. So the higher guys won't play with the cadet guys. We just want to see what the top teams can do in a 3v3 format, really. And I'm interested to see the strategies.
Can we just have like a huge lineup, and then we just do, like, you know what I mean, like 7 people lineup, and then we just put 3 in whenever who's available or whatever?
It's a 6-person roster size.
Okay, right, no, that works. You got it. I think we can get an Orange, a Tangerine, and a Sinisters team kind of together then. I'll try to push for it.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, it's a lot more stuff, but then you have, it is whenever it is. It seems casual, so it seems fun. So I'm down. And anything else you want to talk about here today, or anything you want to promote on your own socials? Feel free here before we wrap up.
Not really. I am working on a thing in the background, which is going to be sort of a hub for esports tournaments and things.
Cool.
I'm considering getting into other games.
Nice.
So if anybody has suggestions or has contacts in other games that might need a little bit of, I don't know, more tournaments, DM me, let me know. I'd love to help out and build esports in general, I guess.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Wookie. And everyone, thank you for checking it out. We'll catch you next time on the Star Wars Squadrons podcast.
I want to scan control.